forgetting to do that. Right, here we go, day 4. We'll let people trickle in here in the next couple minutes. I would love though, while we're at it, often in FEMS, I'll kind of have a, I don't know, icebreaker question, because generally we're all like, ice has been like long since been broken, but just like get us warmed up and kind of energized and excited. I'd like to ask about wins. So I wanted to, we probably don't have time to go around the whole room today, but enter in the chat. What's a tiny win or maybe a big win? I'm really about celebrating the tiny things. So like in some ways I try to encourage people to actually give me a really small one, because the big ones are easy to celebrate. My win is probably like the last 3 days. Like I've woken up just incredibly stoked to come, like with zero nerves, zero anxiety, just like total in my element, ready to come and lead these sessions. Like this has been incredibly pleasurable, which is apropos because that's what we're talking about today. But give me some wins, drop some on me, guys. Congrats, Emily, for the interview for a role you're super excited about. Curious to know what makes you excited. Is there some element of it that's like got you real pumped?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's just kind of fits all the bills of all the attributes I'm looking for. It'd be like a really challenging in a really good way, an industry I'm really excited about, and it'd definitely be a step up.
Yeah, hell yeah, congrats. Lots of pleasure in the sense of challenging your boundaries and learning new things, right? Learning new things can be exhilarating, but it's like got this huge streak of pleasure in it, right? Let's see, Neelam, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, feel free to correct me. Oh yeah, packed your lunch and are eating it. Yes, that is an enormous win, like having food solved. Like I am kind of not actually that good about that working from home here. So I've been trying to be better about meal prep on the weekends, because it turns out our bodies get super dysregulated and go into like, because our body's like, hey, you're starving, jerk. And so we go into fight or flight mode, or a little bit like a cortisol, which is a stress hormone, gets released in our bodies when our blood sugar gets low. So as part of my like elite athlete, protocol, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to never be super hungry and really listen to those cues and act on them. But, when we're busy, we got to like program it in, right? Awesome. Well, I love these wins, guys. Feel free to add more. I was just, if you just got here, I was soliciting wins. And I actually read the chat transcript from yesterday and realized that I missed a question from AM. I'm sorry about that. If I ever like just blow past you, feel free to ask it again. It won't annoy anyone. But it was to review the BIG framework. So I am more than happy to do that if that's still relevant. I'll probably save it closer to near the end of our workshop today, because we do have a lot to get through. But if for some reason I don't, I'm happy to just like chat about it via email or on a call or whatever. But let's dive in today. So just a quick recap. Did everyone do their homework? Just kidding, don't get scared. Your homework, in case you missed it, was if FEMS, and you guys were so gracious as to sort of let me talk about the program and it being my greatest act of self-actualization, basically, and a community that I'm so proud of. I shared what it was all about and how we do it. And just to kind of like recap super briefly. So when we address root cause, which you might notice, we're not talking in these workshops about like how to like nail your product sense interview, or like how to perfect your resume, right? When we address the root cause of the issues or gaps gaps that we observe in our performance, which always has to do with our bodies and our mind, body, emotion system, as well as acknowledging systemic injustice and bias and challenges, and we address that at the root. It's easy to be decisive and imaginative about how it is you want to spend your time. It's easy to then ask for what you want. And again, my joke about this is if you want a GET, you got to ASK. There's a whole story behind that for another time. But we got to ask, right? it becomes easier to bounce back from setbacks. It's easy to listen to our intuition, or as I like to call it, my heart computer. It's also another story for another time. And our goals become straightforward. It doesn't mean that they are easy. There's always effort, right? But ultimately, it is logistical and straightforward to accomplish the things we want to have in our lives and create the things we want to create. The way that we do this, you guys have kind of gotten this like cross-section layer of this, which was sort of my goal of the Fearless Femme system that we do over 6 months, which is starting with your biology, physiology, all of that, examining your habits, your vision and values, establishing clear goals around advancement, creating an advancement action plan, right? So again, we do get very tactical at the end, and then creating an accountability structure for you so that you can get, in this example, your promotion, but really it's your raise, the impact you want to have, the intros you're looking for, better manage stress, better, more executive presence, more creativity. There's a huge spectrum of intangible to tangible outcomes that we get in FEMS. And I wanted to just remind everybody, if you identify as the type of person that is going to thrive in a community like this, you have at least 3 years of product experience, you're ready to co-create your career, you come alive in community, and you're ready to invest in yourself, even though the world tells us we're not allowed to as women, and that's like conditioning that we all have to shed, then what I want you to do is book a call with me. So again, I do like zero pressure, like situations on these calls. I will never, it's bad for literally everybody, including the community, for the pressure to happen. So just to kind of set expectations about what that call's about, the program kind of sells itself for the right people. So really this is about you having any questions about like the how of the program, so I can kind of paint a better picture and just give you all the information that you need to make a really well-informed choice about whether it's the right investment for you right now. Right. And for most people, by the time they get on the call, they're like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. I just want to like suss it out. So here's the link. I pasted it here so I could easily access it for the chat. So here it is right there in the chat. I already got a bunch of people signed up for next week. So please do grab a slot before they all fill up. I would love to chat with you about, and if FEMS isn't the right thing for you, happy to talk about what is going to be the right investment. Because again, this is like, we got to start taking some ownership over how we invest our time, our money, our growth, our energy, all of it. If we want to really ratchet up the trajectory that we're destined to achieve. Okay, so that was enough of the recap. What's here? Okay, so we've talked a lot about external validation versus internal validation. And one of the reasons why I kind of designed this whole experience the way that I designed it was because we kind of have to like address all of the root cause things that get in the way of us feeling awesome while we accomplish extraordinary things, growing really fast, stepping into our power, all that stuff, right? And ultimately becoming successful in our own eyes. But like, when you break away from the source of validation and safety and praise and like, yes, great job that we've been plugged into and like cultivating dependency on, shit gets really scary, right? Like suddenly we're left with this underdeveloped ability to say, yes, I am headed in the right direction. And no, I'm not hearing good job every day, but I wasn't really feeling connected to that good job anyway. It was an old version of me, old paradigm that was made to feel safe by all that praise. But there's a reason why we're breaking away from it. And it's because you were going down a path that didn't feel right to you, right? We end up asking questions like, am I cut out for this? When of course our task is to carve our own path based on a couple of things and really kind of leaning into the skill of internal validation. It's like, hey, everyone, cool. You're supposed to just have internal validation now. So a lot of times we don't like talk about exactly how to cultivate it. So I'm going to demystify that a little bit right now. There's 3 main prongs in the effort to cultivate internal validation, which is this inner voice that you like come to crave and desire the same way in equal measure that we crave and desire external validation, which we still want, by the way. External validation, amazing, super healthy, a sign that we're connected to community and a sense of something bigger than ourselves. We're not trying to do away with external validation. We just want to become more versatile by cultivating our internal validation also. Make sense? So the way that we do that, sort of a three-pronged thing, and we're going to really dive deep into number 3 today. Number 1, you've already started practicing this of deepening your self-awareness. When you're able to get that anxious feeling coming up and get curious about it and say, oh, I understand the mechanics of anxiety. This is a symptom, right? What's going on here? And you can ask yourself, ask your body what it's trying to warn you of. You develop this sense of self-trust where your body can throw a signal at you and you listen, right? And there's a whole other story that, again, I wish I had time to talk about all of the things we talk about in Fearless Femmes this week, but I'm doing my best, about what it actually looks like to be unfuckwithable, right? To be impossible to intimidate. And this self-trust that your instincts are giving you the correct message, and you feel connected to your sense of agency to respond to those signals in, a way that actually serves you in your highest purpose, rather than just like being in constant reactivity mode. A lot of organizations reactivity mode, by the way. Many of you may be exposed to this right now. It's really stressful. We lose our ability to cultivate to trust ourselves and listen to our own opinion about what's going on. Right. Secondly, we talk to ourselves like we would a friend. I have a whole story that I'll be recording and sharing later, probably next week, about how to do this and what my story was in breaking through and suddenly like losing that abusive voice in my head that would criticize everything I did and nothing was ever enough. And I was always doomed, right? Lots of us suffer from this. And instead, like, hey, don't talk to my friend like that, becomes the mantra, right? So again, that one's pretty obvious when you can just say, oh, I needed to do that, right? Actually, quick deep dive on this, because I think this is actually really valuable. What's a statement that you could use to self-validate something that happened today? Think about it for a minute. How do you like to self-validate? Because I bet you do it. Most of us do it at least sometimes. We just don't really value it as much. So our attention has bias to it, right? For me, this I had a couple good ones that I've been just brainstorming on about, like, that conversation was tough but needed to happen. You deserve this. Yeah. Like, you worked really hard for this, actually. What else you got for me, guys? And if you're feeling really stressed and bent out of shape these days, these are probably going to ring super hollow. That's totally okay. Lay it on me anyway. I made the best decision with the information I had. Yes. Oh, this one's one of my favorites because look, in the role of a guide, really easy to put a fuckload of pressure, pardon my French, a lot of pressure on yourself, right? Like, oh God, these people are gonna expect me to have it all figured out, right? I like never make mistakes or get burned out or feel fallible or say something dickish by accident, right? Like my humanness sometimes can get, when I'm feeling PMS or anything that makes me a little bit more emotionally volatile, like, oof, I can get really tender, right? And Sarah, you know what? No one's good at self-validating. Like, even this is a muscle that I'm still building, and I've been working on this full time for like years. Okay. Like, and this is the other thing is what I don't really buy that it ever quite gets that it ever just becomes like the natural default, because we're always pushing our growth edge in ways that make us a little uncomfortable, right? In ways that trigger that old voice. So really it's not about not having zero struggle with this, but it's about being able to ride the waves and noticing when you're talking to yourself the way you would never talk to a friend. Like, I mean, I can say that with 100% certainty that none of you would talk to a friend the way you talk to yourselves. Like you just wouldn't still be here if that were the case. So again, this is kind of those things where we do train it up like a muscle, and it does become easier over time. It also, as we know from the BIG framework that we covered last time, it's supported by the body. Let me actually want to so I've got it handy. Our insight about like the thoughts that our brain generates are shaped by the signals that our body's getting. right? So this is why it's never just about mindset. That would be cute, but it's really about conjuring up a body, because again, you have total control over what's going on here. It's a beautiful, beautiful source of agency, so that you can like create a the biochemical conditions in your body, the physiological conditions to generate the kinds of thoughts like, I'm prioritizing myself today. Or for me, anytime, like when I make a mistake, or like something either administratively gets confused, or like I kind of just, I don't know, I'd reflect on some guidance I gave somebody, and I was like, shit, I actually think I was a little off base with that. My thought, my self-validation is, okay, make it right. That's it. Make it right is what I'll offer all of you. It's like one of the best mistake anxiety assuaging lines that I've come to absolutely love. And I'll tell you at some point about the time that my husband fucked up so bad and I could have lost it completely. And instead I just said, make it right to him. And he was like, oh, okay. And did, basically. So it could have been a huge blowout fight, but instead it was something that was actually something we now laugh about. It wasn't really that serious, but something that just like really called up his best self to the situation, right? So you can call your best self up to the situation with that one. All right, so back to it. Thirdly, pleasure. This is where we're really going to go deep today, because this is just my favorite topic. Like, I love the body might be my absolute favorite, but this is a huge favorite of mine, a favorite, and also probably the most important thing that I teach, right? So I love, love, love this quote from Audre Lorde. Caring for ourselves is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation. And that is an act of political warfare. So when you all think about pleasure, kind of like a dirty word almost, right? What comes up for you? Could be like a word or a thought, or like maybe a feeling. Pleasure. Real question. Dark chocolate. Oh, yes. Guys, I literally have chocolate next to my desk right now. I noticed that earlier and I was like, yeah, I'm keeping it there. Might need a snack. What else? What comes up for you? Connection. Yeah. Really, really good stuff. Cooking, walking, laughing, smiling, time. Oh, we're going to talk about time today. Dancing, laughing. Oh, I love these. Just like let that like juiciness just kind of like warm you up and let it like seep in and relax some of the shoulders, maybe your face, or you have the tongue from the roof of your mouth. Really, really good stuff. Really physiologically soothing, right? And yet, how many of you feel like you get enough pleasure in your, we'll call it your week, because that's what we're going to be zooming in on today. Do you feel like you get plenty, not enough, none? Heat check. Not enough, almost none, not enough. And when you're working full time, pleasure seems to decrease. Really, really common, right? So almost no one here so far is getting enough pleasure in their lives. And the reason for this is probably, and Bianca gets some, awesome. I am a total evangelist for pleasure. This is honestly like, when I think about like, what gift do I have to bring to the world? Kind of like high pressure question to ask yourself, right? I, for my entire life, for some reason, for some like way that my brain is like broken or prop exactly as it is supposed to be, I have no shame about pleasure whatsoever, right? And again, like we talked about with what we've been talking about, women are very actively shamed for giving themselves pleasure, creating a life where they have free time, where they do things just for themselves, right? We are actively shamed out of taking this really seriously and making it a priority, right? So this is why it becomes an act of political warfare, as Audre Lorde says. If anyone's read the book Pleasure Activism, I try not to recommend books generally, but like this one's worth it. It's about the compassion fatigue and burnout experienced by activists, and this like colonized belief that we've been conditioned to have, which is to fight against injustice. We have to absolutely like tear ourselves apart, when actually, as the author argues, pleasure is one of the most radical things that we can do to fight the establishment, right? And dismantle the hegemonic forces that we're conditioned. So pleasure is like one of the most powerful things that we have in our toolkit, like in this world, to create a better world and a better life for ourselves. And I am just front lines ready to go teach everyone how to have a maximum pleasure. It's like, I've just never had problems with it. This is my gift to offer to everybody, right? However, it wasn't really always that way. I remember, especially when I was, still very much on this track where I was like, I feel like I'm doing everything right in product. I'm like checking all the boxes and I'm still not getting the opportunities I want. I'm still not being seen. Like I ended up, and of course I was into like somewhat toxic environments, which most of us are. Like we normalize it, but really, really safe, psychologically safe and nurturing environments are really, really hard to find. So I remember, like, again, right before I had my meltdown where I was like, I don't know what to do. I have to try something that I actually enjoy. I remember feeling like a shell of myself at work. I actually felt like two different people. I had a social life where I was queen of everything. I was confident, extroverted, loved building community. I mean, just all of my gifts, I felt like I was able to deploy every single day. Connection, empathy, all those things that people tell us you can't make money at. Like that was my skill set and I used it all the time in my social life, but of course hadn't quite owned how I was going to use it in my professional life. And the result was a professional life utterly devoid of pleasure and totally disempowered and disconnected from my sense of agency or creativity about how to design a work life that actually gave me any semblance of pleasure whatsoever, right? So yeah, I tell this story because I imagine that many people here resonate with that. So Amy, I'm really glad you raised your hand here. It's like this, I felt like I was being torn apart at the seams, right? Just like rent apart. And it was really intense and really devastating, and it created a lot of despair, right? A lot of like, I don't understand how this is ever going to change. And it just took up my whole field of vision. So here's how I like wedged my foot in the door here. Again, like I mentioned, the meltdown part was what I hoped to help all of you avoid, right? Where I like completely lost my shit and had to kind of burn down a lot of my life so that I could fully focus on like giving a college try to the life that I have now, right? Where pretty much like, I don't know, like 80% of my my work life is pleasure oriented, right? So I optimize for pleasure a lot. And that's what I want to encourage all of us to do today. So why don't we make time for pleasure? If I was like, hey guys, pull up your calendar. We're gonna like have a ton of pleasure this week. What's the first thing that you're gonna tell me? Real question. I know this because everybody says the same thing. I don't have time for that. I know. So this is where I'm going to give you guys a little bit of tough love. So bear with me because we've been on like a intimacy train. So hopefully you trust me now to be gentle with you in the right ways and give tough love in the right ways. And like Anjali says, oh yeah, what does pleasure even mean? Huge one, right? Especially if we've spent most of our day at work fighting back our survival responses from our nervous system just so that we can make it through the day. Right? Turns out when we ignore our fight or flight signals, we are cutting off all our access to the things that actually do give us pleasure too. So we don't perceive pleasure, even if it actually is technically available to us, right? So here's the deal. Core philosophy here to take away. Your calendar is the only productivity tool you need. Now, femmes do a bunch of other, like, they bring in a bunch of other tools that work for them. They do goal trackers or like habit trackers, right? That's another big one that people sort of opt for. But at the end, and some people like making to-do lists or sort of like daily scribbling down to kind of get the shape of their day. But at the end of the day, you do not need any, you don't need, you may want, but you don't need any productivity tools except your calendar. And the reason for that is your calendar is the only actual accurate representation of your priorities. Like, hear that again. Your calendar, how you spend your time, is the only actual representation of your priorities. If it's not on your calendar, it's because you are not prioritizing it. Right now, I want to just take a quick pause because there's a bunch of other nuance here, as with most complicated topics. Yes, there are a bunch of reasons that are rooted in inequity and systemic injustice and like uneven, unfair expectations from different types of people that causes us that makes it harder to just take control of our schedules, right? So like, yes, 100%, there are other factors here out of our control. We're going to be focusing on the ones that is within our control, which basically is this. As Brene Brown says, busyness is the world's most socially acceptable opiate. And I want to I know that we're all sick of talking about burnout. So I'm going to give it about 10 seconds worth of airtime here. Look, this is like the most grim shit I've ever seen. Basically in 2022, I don't know if you guys are familiar with like the Google search interest data. Like you can kind of get trends about frequency of search terms over time. We've gone from almost none about burnout from work, burnout from school, and burnout from life from, in the early 2000s to, we're looking at a massive, massive spike, like so much higher than any other spike that there's ever been in the history of this search term, right? This is really, really grim. And yet we keep saying, I'm too busy, I'm too busy, I'm too busy. And this is my call to action for all of you, which is to let go of some of that drama, all right? I do not want any of the drama around, oh, my life is so busy, my calendar is so overwhelmed. What I want is drama in the effort and badassery of you wiping it clean and like filling it with shit that you love instead. That's where I want our drama, okay? So we're gonna do a quick version of this exercise, but I wanna just really revisit this as like the tough love part of this workshop. Busy is just sloppy time management. I shouldn't say just, because it's not strictly sloppy time management, but that's a huge part of it and you have control over it, right? Busy gives away your agency to design a life that you want. It also, of course, creates massive amounts of context switching, high interrupt, your goals just get kind of like piecemealed away and then like overtaken by things that are lower priority. And you just say, yes, 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 I'm just so busy, right? And then your goals, suddenly a year goes by and you've made very little progress towards a goal that's really important to you. Right. And there we are in victimhood with the drama again. Right. And the most unfortunate part about this is in our culture, which is burnout culture, right, which is a huge like white supremacist value. We add this busyness to our personas like it's a badge of honor. So we're just going to cut through all that bullshit right now. We're just going to drop that baggage off for a moment and reimagine something different. We're not going to let excuses stand in the way. There may be really important constraints or considerations or obstacles because as women or as a woman of color or as a person with disabilities, it's like harder and there's more shit you have to deal with, more obstacles to overcome to accomplish your goals. Great. It's not an excuse. It's part of the plan. Okay. Your goals are worth it. So a couple prerequisites here, right? So again, I'm doing the quick and dirty version of this to give you something really valuable in a short period of time. And FEMS, we go super deep and make this really holistic. It's a whole internal transformation to your relationship with time in your calendar. So there are elements here where I'm assuming a baseline level of emotional fitness. You're pretty, solid in recognizing when you're feeling overwhelmed and you have the ability to soothe it. You've addressed some elements of your self-sabotage where you make a plan but then don't follow through, right? A big problem that we address in FEMS. You've already got a powerful vision statement for yourself. We did knock that one out this week. And you have established clear, inherently motivational goals that support that vision, like getting a promotion or whatever, right? So, ooh, let's see, where do I want to start? So I want to take a quick pause because before I get into the actual technique, I want to come up with the activities that give us the most pleasure. And is it clear why pleasure is really important? Like, why is pleasure important to you? What does it give you? When we're talking about yoga, connection, what were all these? Dancing, walking, cooking, chocolate, smiling. What is it like? Like, it sounds inherently great, right? But like, there's a reason why it's so good. What does it give you? Balance, a life worth living. Yeah, it's no joke, right? Happiness, fulfillment, calm, stress release. And when you don't have those things, when you don't have a stress release, when you're not calm, when you don't experience joy, are you more or less productive? Real question. Well, that's duh. Yeah. Like, show me the person who's exhausted and doing her best work. Right? Like, I'll literally put her in a lab for observation. Because that's just nothing in science supports this, right? And also, like, frankly, I'm not here to just make you more productive, like working for the man. Like, you feeling good is reason enough in my book. That's why I do it. Okay. And so I invite you, to the extent that being productive adds to your life and makes you feel fulfilled and gives you a sense of momentum, awesome. But it's still about you, right? This is not about optimizing yourself to create more value for a company or whatever. So we're really staying in line with our values here. So I want you to pick 3 activities. Okay, so 3 activities that give you pleasure. You can choose to share them here or not, but you might want to share them, the ones that are shareable. Maybe some aren't, wink, because we're gonna start to actually make some progress on this. Think about your values, and I want you to pull up your real calendar, your actual calendar that you can edit. And what I want you to do is scroll to 6 months from now. So that's April, May, June, July, August, September, October. Oh my God, October is like the best month of the year. Am I right? So we're talking about the week, like the 3rd week of October. Everyone scroll. And if I am able to share my screen without compromising anyone's privacy, I will do that. Perfect. All right. So we're in the 3rd week of October. I can't share my screen because I've got some client names on my calendar, obviously. So I'm not going to do that. But I'll show you a little. I want you all to have your calendar up. And 6 months from now, hopefully, you have a little bit more of a sense of spaciousness, right? You might have some recurring meetings that are still there, but like, I'm sure that your calendar this week looks like way more intense than a calendar from 6 months ago, because that's just how calendars work, right? I want you to add in this calendar, on this week view of October 2022, time for your 3 pleasure activities, because you're going to do all 3 this week. Any questions about this? Everyone like getting themselves there? Everyone got their calendar up. I mean, I'd love to hear what your activities are. I'll come up with some. Golly, I feel like I haven't revisited this exercise in a while. I have a lot of pleasure in my life, so it's kind of part of my. It's like breathing at this point. But oh God, I love like getting everyone together at a house upstate, and like creating a huge menu for food, because I'm like a cook, serious home cook and baker, and like getting a spreadsheet all together that like organizes everybody, and having 20 people just have this seamless, beautiful experience in nature where we're all pretty much unplugged and just having the absolute best time connecting and romping around and eating amazing food. That's going to be my pleasure. We're actually planning one for May, so it's coming right up. Other pleasure. Ooh, I think taking myself out for a completely outrageous sushi dinner. That's a big one for me. So again, a little bit of money involved in that one, but that's certainly not necessary. Does everyone have their activities on their calendar? Just give me a yes. So we're going to start with the 2nd week of October. So I'm not going to like force you to, I'm not going to, at least right now, force you to do the exercise where you can do it now, Priyanka, go for it. If there's something like, again, what we do in FEMS is we look at talking about leverage. As always, I mentioned leverage in every single session, right? There are some activities on your calendar this week that are for sure lower leverage than your pleasure practice. I guarantee it, because I've looked at hundreds of calendars and it has never been untrue, right? So feel free to do it now. If it feels a little less stressful to like, you know, be manipulating your calendar live, then you can do it for 6 months from now. The reason why I want you doing it for 6 months from now is because we're designing the calendar of your dreams so that, you know, this is like, you know, my tricky, like very clever angle to this. 6 months from now, if you join Fearless Femmes this week, this will literally be your life. No question, right? And so we'll fill in the goals in just a minute. Say yes as soon as you're done, so I know that you have gotten your 3 pleasure practice activities for at least 1 week in the next 6 months. Ooh, I have an image of a sample calendar that I did anonymize that I can show you guys for what the final result will look like. Anyone get Sunday scaries? I know that you're busy working on your thing, so you don't have to answer in the chat, but if you get Sunday scaries, what would be the most powerful thing you could do? I think it's just anxiety, right? It's your body and mind kind of like getting a little haywire about what you think you have to do in that coming week. You know what I did? I have no meetings on Mondays. Can't be scared of it, got nothing to be scared of, right? So that was my total like radical act that I've had now for like 2 years. It's amazing. I generally don't get Sunday scaries that much, just again, because I like have done so much work on my nervous system at this point that it's not common, but I mean, I kept it anyway because it's amazing. There's some days where most Mondays, I am hyper productive because I get all that deep work, right? I've had, but like, I don't know, like once every 2 months or so, I'll just wake up on Monday and be like, not today, and I'll take the day off. Now, again, this is like a place of extreme privilege, having worked really hard to establish my own business, that I have flexibility here. When we collaborate, when we have a bigger team, there's way more constraints there, but I want to empower you to look at this calendar and say, what is going to serve my nervous system here, right? Because like, if I don't want to waste a single minute of my Sunday thinking or worrying about work. I do not want to sit down and write about all the things that I want to do for the week on a Sunday. No, Sundays are my time, not my work time, right? So some people love it though. So again, it's to each their own here. Really letting your creativity go. Looks like we might need some more energy, or anyone want to share their pleasure practices? Because it looks like we're looking for ideas here. What's a good one that I love thinking of, ones that don't require money? Oh, when the weather's nice, going out for a walk and smelling every single flower, even if they don't smell. That's a really good one. Going to the plant nursery, because again, gardening and cooking is like my whole thing. Oh, I'd like to introduce my co-host, my bird of paradise plant, who is enormous. So gardening is really big for me. So going and just like touching the green things. This is why I literally have this leaf right here. Any other suggestions? Let me just get like 1 or 2 more suggestions in the chat. I want to hear what you wrote.
I put down a good bath, hot bath, and a nature walk, like similar to what you said.
Yeah.
I guess nature walk without anything waiting on the other end, right? Yeah. Like just have time to relish that.
Ooh, you know how that looks? That looks like a big ass block on your calendar on a Wednesday, starting at 3 p.m.
Yep. And I've been reading Artist's Way.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody did that. I haven't started working on the workbook, but yeah, she also talks about the walks.
Our walks did a lot of heavy lifting during the pandemic. I will say that, but somehow they still hold pleasure for me. Oh, another good one is like a $10 foot massage. So in New York, like you've got massage parlors like all over the place because it's so dense. But if you can go and get a like real quick like chair massage or foot rub, there's nothing like it. Oh yeah, getting lost in a new neighborhood or space is really good. You know what I did in like the doldrums of winter? Really struggle with winter, in case you didn't pick that up. I got into witchcraft. I was like, I'm gonna walk to the bookstore. Also another good pleasure activity, wandering around a bookstore. I bought 3 random books on witchcraft and then ended up with like a bunch of essential oils, an altar on my desk that I created from like stuff I picked up around the neighborhood, like a stick covered in cool lichen and like a dope rock, like all like just sitting next to my desk. I don't know, like just being weird, right? Lots of pleasure at our fingertips. Hopefully that's seeded some ideas for folks. So here's the deal. The next thing that I want you to do, that will make this a quick one because I want to get into kind of like the heart of the technique and how this relates to your goals. The other thing I want you to do is come up with a self-care thing that you want to do. So this is, again, you know, self-care is so much more than bubble baths, as we know. This could be something really like that you take really seriously as part of your elite athlete discipline, right? If you are nurturing your body and mind and emotional system to perform at the highest level, what self-care do you want to be pulling in? If you're having, maybe one's coming to you really easily. In FEMS, we talk about these things in terms of edits. So again, leverage, always the theme, maximum bang for buck. We ask, what's the smallest possible change you could make that would have outsized impact on your life and well-being, right? So it could be really, really small. And ideally, it's really, really small because then you'll actually do it, right? And we kind of look at all of the you know, our physical and emotional needs, from nutrition to downtime to sleep, and to, you know, your beverage consumption. Are you drinking a lot of sugar? Too much coffee? One tiny thing that you know maybe like you should do it and kind of don't want to. I want you to add that to the calendar too. So maybe it's 15 minutes of yoga, and FEMS, we're doing a morning routine challenge right now, or 10 days. We all commit to a morning routine and see what happens. It's been super fun. I've been not hitting snooze at 6:30 in the morning. I'm like, who am I? Water. Yes, that's a part of my morning routine. Actually, Liana, is I wake up and drink 16 ounces of water right away. Huge. 10 to 20 minute power nap, journaling. Hell yes. Love this. So I want you just putting it on your calendar, right? The idea here, obviously, is that we're creating little, like, you know, when you go to the bowling alley, like with kids, and you get the, you know, the gutter bumpers, right? So like the bowling ball can kind of like, it's never going to end up in the gutter. It's going to bounce off, right? That's what we're creating in our schedule. And if we have a schedule that doesn't start with our self-care and our pleasure practice, as we know, work expands to fill all available time. Work expands to fill all available time. This is just, there's a zillion reasons for this, right? I mean, one is our culture and all the things that we're like told we're supposed to value, and what self-worth is, you know, anchored by. Our output and productivity is certainly a big part of that. It's going to be a lifelong process of kind of like shedding those layers. So don't worry about it if you still feel that a lot, like all of us do, to some degree. Also, like, dude, we like work. Like a lot of high achievers here in the audience. Like, it's actually really fulfilling, like a job well done. Hell yeah. Like all the external and internal validation that we get from it. Of course, it's like natural for us to say like, oh, you know, one more hour, right? And then of course there's the shame that also drives that decision, right? Even if you don't want to do another hour. So work expands to fill all available time. If you structure your calendar to prioritize the things that are actually strategic in your life, which are self-care and pleasure, right? Like again, that elite athlete discipline, you will get so much more done, like over the wholeness of time, like on a month, over the course of a month, right? Because you won't be overexerting yourself and then crashing and then spending all this energy, like putting the pieces back together, right? Hopefully this is all really intuitive. I don't need to like make it the argument about like why this is, why not burning yourself out is, is more strategic, right? But I do want you thinking in terms of strategy. Like there is real strategy here. And it is about leveraging yourself, your energy, so that you're like on it, right? You're feeling really good. So we've got our pleasure practice there. Now here's the rest of the technique. Any questions about this so far? Hopefully it felt really good to like cordon off your calendar, but that felt dope. So this is where we're headed, right? This is kind of a sample calendar that's like a hybrid of mine and some other, other femmes that have volunteered their calendars for the sake of me sort of explaining myself. This was when I was I was on the West Coast, so I was waking up really early and ending work early, which I loved, by the way. Wish I could do that here. Constraints though, right? Waking up at 6:30 and then really working or not all the way until 3, at which point I exercise. Sometimes I'd come back and finish some stuff up at the end if I really felt motivated to do that. But at no point did exercise get compromised. You just do it. It is just as much of your job to do these self-care and pleasure activities as it is to do your actual work itself. Right? So that's the mindset. That's the radical shift that we're going for. So awesome. We've got kind of a canvas here with a little container wrapper bumpers around it where you're going to be honoring your self-care and your and pleasure, right? So again, investing in yourself, investing in your calendar is given that it's the only accurate representation of your actual priorities. Boom, you've just prioritized self-care and pleasure. Congratulations. Done, right? So here's the rest of the technique. You can change the time frames on this to kind of suit you, but this is sort of my recommendation as a starting point for the experiment, right? Sit down at the beginning of every month. Maybe you do it every quarter, whatever. Identify your most important goal for the next 30 days or whatever time period, right? What is the single most important thing that you have to accomplish if you want to get promoted next half? What's the single most important thing that you need to get done in the next 30 days to actually make that happen, right? Probably a deliverable of some kind, right? You then write down in this list, and kind of like a mega to-do list, every single thing that has to happen logistically for that goal to be accomplished. This is really what makes this tool the most impactful thing that I teach, according to FEMS, the most life-changing thing, next to physiological regulation probably, is that it demystifies these goals. If you ever get, like most of us, say like, oh my God, I'm going for this promotion. Oh, but how? I'm like never going to be good enough. I don't even do I even want this? How do people get promoted? And then you just shut down, right? Guess what? If it's physically possible to accomplish, there's a set of steps that any schmuck off the street could follow and accomplish the goal, right? So the point here is to demystify the process logistically, zero judgment, zero analysis, just a list of steps that you have to follow, like a recipe to arrive at this goal, right? So you've done this, you've got this mega to-do list. Keep asking yourself, what else? What else? What else? We want like as few surprises as possible, right? Maybe there's something that you don't know yet. Cool. You're going to have a whole step for learning how to do that thing. Everything's logistics, everything, right? If you are, again, intersections matter. If you struggle with disabilities or have a different learning style or are neurodiverse or, whatever, there's probably going to be a lot more self-care, a lot more logistics that you have to work in to make sure that you are still on track for this goal, right? Again, it's worth overcoming. It's worth planning for, no matter how many obstacles and the nature of the obstacles, even if they're external and unfair, we account for them, right? We then ask, of course, what conditions must be true for these logistics to happen. I added this because it was like a lot of people had a goal to like go to in-person networking events, and it was during the pandemic. So like we want to stay in touch with reality, okay? So no, we're probably not going to be able to take that step until the pandemic's over. Again, ask yourself, like, what do we have to appreciate realistically to actually make this work? Maybe that adjusts your time frame. Maybe it adjusts your strategy. Again, there's no dead ends here, only more information. Oops. Then we've already done this. Because I rearranged this technique. You've already asked yourself what self-care you have to commit to keep your shit together along the way. So this is the process. And then what you do is you take that to-do list that demystifies the thing you're looking to accomplish, whether it's get promoted or be able to bench press 100 pounds or literally any goal in the world, right? You've broken it down. Each of those to-do list items goes on your calendar, okay? So all you have to do is wake up, and the most important thing that you are gonna do that day already occupies the time on your calendar that you need it to. Let's see, I think I got a message. So, oh yes. So the approach to address the physiological barriers preventing you from knowing what the goal is and creating that list, that you are in really good company. A lot of us get wrapped around the axle and self-criticism, or our body shuts down or whatever, because it's really smart of your body to do that. Especially if you've been encountering a lot of unmet goals or disappointments or setbacks or unpleasant surprises, your body's probably like, goals are not safe, right? A plan seems inaccessible. When you're kind of stuck in this vortex of powerlessness, we really got to get the body under control. And this is why FEMS is designed the way that it is. We don't just jump into goals in FEMS. That would be like pretty counterproductive, right? It would just create more fodder for our nervous system to say, see, why even bother? So this is why we start with the body, right? However, it is a nice exercise. Maybe starting with something that is within your window of tolerance, like it doesn't make you shut down. Maybe it's to be like super simple, like walking to the grocery store. Write down the list of things that you have to do, starting from sitting down right here to arrive at the grocery store. You probably want to get up, put on pants. Just kidding, I'm wearing pants. Grab your little canvas tote, put on your shoes, tighten the knot, grab your keys, open the door, walk down the stairs, be really specific, right? So try to play with this, because your goals are literally just as attainable. There's more logistics to most of them because they're bigger goals than going to the grocery store. The bigger the goals, the more the logistics, but it does not change its possibility at all, especially when it's on your calendar. So this is really where I want you guys, this is like the one moment where we get to lean on cold, hard facts. We do a lot of, squishy, like body stuff and like perception and intuition and like psychology and my style of helping people achieve amazing things. This is the one time it gets to be simple and straightforward. Okay. So really lean on that. If you love rationality and logic, like this is your moment. Okay. So really, really embrace this. And when you get all of those items on your calendar, which by the way, on a given day, you're not going to give yourself too many things to do. Like add a lot of buffer. Like, again, you've already got your pleasure and self-care there. So that adds kind of a natural safety, like a natural buffer to taking on too much. But like, keep track. Oh, something on surprise, some surprise comes up that's actually really important. Great. If it's more important than your goal, just shift the whole sequence of events back by 24 hours. You still have total clarity on exactly what you're going to accomplish and on what time frame and how you're going to do it. You get to adjust the timeline, right? It just designs away this problem that we encounter so often about like, well, when am I even going to have this thing that I want so badly? Like, how come I can never make time for it? Drama gone, right? Any questions about this? This tool, when you use it, when you fill in, and I want to kind of empower you to try this. This is going to be your homework, and I do want you guys to follow up. Just to kind of like give a quick and dirty example of this, I was writing like a sequence of emails, right, for that you guys are probably already getting right at this point, where I have to write the emails and like, I don't know, there's like a pattern to them and like kind of an idea story arc that I want to be communicating. Well, if I want you to be receiving those emails so that you learn about Fearless Femmes and want to sign up, for it, because you get a sense of who I am and like what the program's about and how we accomplish these things, and the transparency and all that. That's a really good goal, really important, right? So great. I am going to sit down starting at 9 a.m. on Tuesday and get as much as I can done in an hour. Then I'm going to do as much as I can get done in another hour at 2 to 3. You might notice these are my flow periods. This is when I do some of my best work. I've thought about this. I've strategized, right? Kind of take a big fat break from the whole email writing thing, because it can get tedious for most of Wednesday until 2 p.m. again. I don't do anything on it on Thursday, because just need to walk away from it for a little bit, right? I know myself, but I do have this deep focus period from 7 to 10 on Friday where I just hammer it out and finish it and put a bow on it, right? So I get that deep focus, that uninterrupted time to really wrap it all up. So this is how, again, this is a very simple goal, very simple outcome that gets me some very simple steps towards having it done. But I know exactly when I'm going to be able to hand off this nurture sequence, because I have basically sized the work, broken it into tasks, which I've also sized, committed to a delivery schedule, and then I execute. What does this sound a whole lot like to you? Real question.
The basics of product management.
Hey, ding, ding, ding.
Yeah,
it's amazing. I'm still a product manager, it turns out. Here I was thinking I left it all behind. Nope. I'm a strategist and a consultant, and I'm constantly coming up with new frameworks and breaking my work down and getting it so it can get done, setting expectations with everyone around me. Joke. Here I thought I could get away. It's a version of it that I absolutely love. And yeah, this version of me, best thing I've ever done. Just kidding. I think FEMS is probably the best thing I've ever done, but me being able to do it from a place of joy and ease and compassion, self-compassion, it's a wonderful way to be. And this is basically this concept that we've referenced a couple times over the course of our work this week, is this concept of asking how rather than if something's possible. We're talking, we zoomed into kind of the altitude of goals just now, and then, but you can zoom out and do it for your entire life, right? Like anything that you want, your vision statement, it's a matter of how rather than if, right? And then of course we just break it down into smaller and smaller steps, and so that we just know, what we're going to do today to make some practice, as a practice of taking steps towards our vision. Let's see. Oh yes. Oh, Magda, I so appreciate you repping Fearless Femmes in the group. I come back to the Femmes material probably every year. I just, a quick story about my experience here. I probably was 3 years in of feeling zero, unfuckwithable. My anxiety was just, I didn't have it. It was amazing. I suffered from it so badly for so many years, just gone, right? Teaching people how to avoid burnout, flowing and just feeling so balanced for 3 years. And then this winter rolled around. Just amazing. It turns out I had all of my, buffer and everything. Couldn't account for just how much the pandemic has robbed from us in terms of our capacity. So even though I had a very forgiving schedule, it wasn't forgiving enough for where my physiology was coming out of the winter, coming out of COVID, having COVID, and 2 years of a lot of our feedback loops and support systems being kind of blown up. So again, I got to come back to it from a dark ass place over the last couple of months, but it's what I like to call a spiral upward, right? Kind of come back to the same thing, but from a fundamentally different place, different tools. And again, I had this amazing experience of feeling pretty low, but still having equanimity. That was a really big, amazing experience actually. And I got to overcome all that stuff to end up on this side of it, sharing even more wisdom. Right. Fabulous. So let's see, I'm just catching up on chats. Morning Pages, Artist Way is amazing. I want to empower you guys to sit down, and even if you're just thinking about again, with Fearless Femmes, you get kind of coached through this whole thing, this process in detail, but from your vision, you can think about like what the biggest gap is between, the most important gap between where you're at now and this vision, and conceive of a goal around that. Right? That's really how we do it in Femmes at a high level. That's how we get our goal. The goals just kind of reveal themselves, right? We do a bunch of reflection on it to make sure that they really matter to us and we're doing them for the right reasons. But ultimately, you can go through this exercise of having this goal broken down so you know exactly how you're going to be closing this gap by the time October rolls around. I can't wait to hear how it goes. So I really encourage you to experiment with this. I mean, make the to-do list. You can do it in steps, right? Make that to-do list, get it on your calendar, throw that to-do list the fuck away because to-do lists are pretty psychologically heavy. We're like, shit, there's so much to do. It's like when it's on your calendar, there's no, like we avoid that, right? Because it's only what we're doing today. And it's already decided, and it's already decided to be the most important thing in our lives. So of course we're going to do it, right? It's inherently motivating. It's all there laid out for us, zero mystery. So we don't even like get our inner critic like doesn't even show up for work, right? It's kind of amazing. So please leverage this. This is like one of my best tools, and I love teaching it, and I hope it's helpful. I know we're out of time, so feel free to sign off if you need to, but oh my God, shit, guys. This was like the best week ever. It's such a blast. I really hope that, again, I'll share the link in the email if you do want to hop on a call with me. Just explore Fearless Femmes. I don't sell stuff, okay? So like, again, it sells itself. You can just decide if it's right for you. And I'm here to answer literally all of your questions. And if it's not, like, let's get you the support. I have a bunch of really great referrals and colleagues with different specializations who might be able to help you better than I can. So I am here to literally just be of service in the most genuine way possible. And I hope this was awesome. I'd love any feedback, any requests for future topics that you might bother to show up towards. I'd love to hear them. And this is the first time I've done anything quite this intensive with such a big group of people. So I can't state enough how delighted I am that you were willing to be part of this experiment. And I hope it was really helpful. I hope it was enjoyable for you as it was for me. This kind of intimacy that we had the chance to build is pretty powerful. So yes, I hope you all stay in touch. Any questions? I have a minute.
I have a quick question, Becca, about the Femmes program. Do you start new cohorts every month, or do you roll new people into the existing, or some combination? How does that work?
Yeah, great question. Used to do cohorts, which had some benefits. Everyone kind of wound up on different pages anyway, because like life happens, the course is self-paced. And so I actually it's been amazing doing rolling, where people are kind of joining all the time. And then also, rolling off all the time. You still really get a bunch of familiar faces. And it's amazing. It's like this it ended up being a feature rather than a bug, where you've got people who are just starting out, seeing how all these things are being applied in month 6. In month 6, you got opportunities to revisit stuff. It's been 6 months since you learned it. So it's been perfect. That was how that product iteration went, and it was really successful. So join when you want the clock to start on your goals. I have a money back guarantee, So when you want this thing, you can, again, the clock starts, it's on your calendar, and you'll have it in October, which is kind of cool, right? Any other questions? Amazing. I am so happy to know all of you. Again, please let me know if you have any feedback. Never hesitate to get in touch with me for any reason. This is what I live for, is connecting with all of you and building that relationship and that intimacy. And so, yes, feel free to share the videos to friends if you think they're helpful, forward my newsletter, whatever you think is going to be of service to you and your community that you are building. That's how I get to self-actualize and live my purpose, which is making everyone feel a little less alone in their experience. So I hope this is really helpful, and have a wonderful weekend. Hell yeah. I'll see everyone on the flip.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Bye.